Hey guys, I'm a little busy this week when we have live lessons going on. I have a bunch of meetings for my mentee children. So I just wanted to come on here and record the lesson that we're going to be learning this week. So we're going to do Introduction to the Body Systems because that's our new unit after we just finished up cells. And then I also want to introduce our project that we have due. It'll be due after Christmas, so it gives you plenty of time to work on it, but it is a really big project and it's really important that you guys spend some time on it. So first I'm going to jump into that project and I'm going to share my screen here. I'm just going to share my entire screen because it'll be easier. All right, cool. So that big project we have this week is this disease presentation. So I'm going to open that up for you guys. So you guys are going to pick a disease from the CDC website. It can be anything like Alzheimer's, celiac disease, diabetes, Lou Gehrig's disease, anything that works for you. You're going to actually research that disease. You're going to get some pictures for it, and then you're going to make a Google Slides presentation from it. So in your Google Slides presentation, you need to make sure it has the disease name and your name. Why did you choose this disease? A description of it. What body parts does it affect? What are some of the signs and symptoms? What do you feel when you have this disease? How do you get it? Is it something that you inherit from your parents? Is it something that instead that you can catch like out in the world? What are some of the treatment or prevention? What's some of the history of it? Like who's the first person that we know with this disease, and how have we grown and researched this disease since then? And then some interesting facts. Your very last slide of your presentation is going to be a works cited slide or a bibliography slide. So that's where all of your research that you did, you're going to put all of that on your works cited slide. And there's the point totals for you. And so this project is going to be due on December 5th, but your notes presentation is going to be due on the 21st. And so let me pull up that note sheet really quick. I have included this note sheet for you as an assignment. It'll be due again November 21st. Here you put your source and all of the information, and then I take you through here description, signs and symptoms, causes, transmissions, treatment, prevention, history, other interesting facts. If you fill this out, you're making your Google Slides presentation should be cake. It'll just more or less be formatting it to make sure it looks pretty. So should be a effective but simple project for you guys to get done, and you have about 7 weeks to get it done, so that should be plenty of time to complete such a big project. All right, well, let's get started with our introduction to the body systems today. So let me just present my screen here. So we are starting with the human body. The biggest thing you guys need to remember is that there's levels of organizations. We're really going to focus on the cells, the tissues, the organs, organ systems, and then finally the organism is ourself, the human. This atom, compound, molecule, that stuff is more chemistry based, so we're just not going to focus on that at this time. So you guys are going to need to remember there are 4 types of tissues. We have connective tissues, which help to make up the bone and the cartilage, and this is what connective tissue looks like. You have epithelial tissue over here, and it is the innermost and outer body surfaces, so that means it makes up the skin, and then more or less like the makes up the skin, and then also like any intestinal tracts that lead to the outside of the body, so like the inside of the mouth, and anything like that. Then we have muscle tissue right down here. So that is the ability, it has the ability to contract and grow constantly. So what we're looking at there is, obviously our muscles, also the heart, things like that. Then we have the nervous tissue. And so this is going to take care of the brain and all the neurons in our body, helps us to feel pain, everything like that. So those are 4 types of tissues. Got 2 videos in here that I want you guys to remember. But let's take a look at these body systems right here. So I see this one right here, and I see bones. Bones also means skeleton, so this is the skeletal system. Then over here, I see a brain up here. So I see brain. Oh, these are all, that must be the spinal cord. These are all connecting. That must be the nervous system. Oh, over here, I see the heart and all the veins leading to it. That must be the cardiac system. Here I see a set of lungs. That must be the respiratory system. Here I see a stomach and some intestines. That must be the digestive system. And then lastly, I see all of these muscles on this human. So that must be the muscular system. And again, here's a second video. Please watch those videos. All right. We have 7 major body systems. So we have the nervous system, we have the skeletal system, we have the muscular system, we have the respiratory system, circulatory, digestive, reproductive. Then we also have some minor body systems, which we will cover some of these minor body systems as well. So we have the endocrine system, the immune system, lymphatic system, urinary system, and integumentary system. So this week, we're actually going to cover the integumentary system, which is like the skin, outermost layer system. Then we're also going to cover the nervous system as well. All right, so you guys remember from when we were talking about cells, homeostasis. Homeostasis, again, is going to pop back up. It's going to pop back up here in our body systems. It's going to pop back up when we jump over to the environmental side of things. It's going to pop back up when we talk about plants. Homeostasis is so important. So it means a stable environment no matter what is happening on the outside. So organs and organ systems work together to create a well-oiled machine. That's it. Like, that's all there is to it. I will tell you right now that this is a test question on your quiz, and therefore this will be a test question on your test. Like, this is so important to remember what homeostasis is. It looks very similar to that first test question we had about homeostasis. So maintaining homeostasis through the body. In the respiratory system, we need to make sure that there's an accurate amount of carbon dioxide and oxygen. So if there's too much carbon dioxide, the blood triggers faster breathing and the lungs exhale more frequently, which helps to remove the carbon dioxide from the body. In the excretory system, if there's too much water, then the blood triggers retention of water to the kidneys, and the kidneys produce more urine, and then you have to use the restroom, and that's how we get water to remove water from the body. And then you also have the endocrine system. So that's there's a high concentration of sugar. Then the blood says, hey, we need to make some insulin. And then there's a gland on the pancreas. 1 second. Sorry about that. So then there's a gland on the pancreas, and that insulin helps regulate how much blood sugar is in our system. This is extremely important for some people out there who have diabetes, because they don't regulate their insulin appropriately. So they need to supplement. Another big thing we're going to get into, and we're going to cover this a couple of times through here, through the body systems, is positive and negative feedback. So positive feedback is an event or stimulus increases the likelihood that it will continue. Basically, one of the only times you're going to see positive feedback is in terms of like when a woman is giving birth or when a woman is breastfeeding. Every other time in the body, you're going to see negative feedback. So negative feedback is a response to a stimuli that keeps the variable close to a set value and then shuts off a system if it varies from a set value. So an example of this is if the temperature gets too hot outside, then your body begins to sweat to cool you down. Same thing if it's too cold outside, your body will raise the hairs on your arm to allow warm air to get closer to the skin to help warm you up. All right, now let's get started. Let's start talking about the nervous system. There's a cute little quote there. All right, so first part, central nervous system. You got the brain, and then you also have the spinal cord. It acts as the body's control center, coordinates all of the activities, impulses, everything. Central nervous system is this big yellow part right here in this diagram. Okay. Then you have the peripheral nervous system, which is everything that is not the central nervous system. So it's made up of all the nerves that carry messages to and from the central nervous system. It's really similar to like telephone wires that connected previously houses in our community, more like how we connect cable to all the houses in our community. The central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system, they always work together to make immediate, rapid stimulus changes in your body. So let's say, for instance, you're cooking and your hand touches the stove. Your peripheral nervous system will immediately signal to the central nervous system, which will then tell your hand to pull away, tell your muscles to pull away from the stove because the stove is hot. All right. Within the peripheral nervous system, there are two parts. There's somatic nervous system and then autonomic nervous system. So the relay of information between the skin, skeletal muscles, and the central nervous system. So you continuously control this pathway by deciding whether or not to move your muscles. So you can lay in bed all day or you can get up and go work out. That is the somatic nervous system. The autonomic nervous system, this is a little bit what I just talked about with your hand on the stove. It relays information from the central nervous system to organs. Yeah, that's part of it too. But this is more like the involuntary stuff. So like you breathing every single day is part of your autonomic nervous system. It's just you don't really have control over it. And within that, there's the sympathetic nervous system, which controls in times of stress, such as flight or fight response. And then the parasympathetic nervous system, which controls in time of rest. So that is, when you're just sitting there every day. We have neurons, and this is really important. This is the basic structure and function of the nervous system. These are the cells that conduct impulses, and they're made up of dendrites, these little like hairy things on the outside, a cell body, so that's this part right here, and then you have an axon that's right here. Down here, you have the myelin sheath. In between that connects all these myelin sheaths, you have the node of Ranvier, and then all the way down here, you have the axon terminals. This is important to know. This slide's a good thing to take a look at because you have an assignment this week where you have to label a neuron. But keep that in mind and take a look at this. All right, so how do these neurons work if someone taps on your shoulder? So first, the receptors in the skin are going to sense touch or some other stimuli. Then the sensory neurons transmit the touch message. The information is sorted and interpreted by your brain. A response is determined by the inner neurons. Then the motor neurons transmit our message to the shoulder muscle, and the shoulder muscles are activated, causing your head to turn. All right, let's talk about your brain. So this is the main part of the central nervous system, and then also, the other part is the spinal cord. So there's three main sections to the brain. You have the cerebrum, which has two hemispheres, your left and your right. It controls memory, intelligence, and the muscles. You have the cerebellum, which is back here in the back of the brain. This controls balance and posture and coordination. So, everything you need for everyday walking around. And then lastly, you have the brainstem right down here. And this controls involuntary actions such as breathing. All right, in the cerebrum, this will control your conscious activities, intelligence, memory, language. This is the stuff you're using right now to learn this information. Your brain is super wrinkly. There's lots of folds. There's an outer layer of gray matter called the cerebral cortex, and then it's also divided into 4 lobes. You have the temporal lobe, the frontal lobe, the parietal lobe, and the occipital lobe in the back. The occipital lobe is concerned with vision. The parietal lobe, it helps to process sensory information. The frontal lobe is where you do most of your decision making. And there, it says there's studies all the time on the frontal lobe, especially in teenagers, and how developed really is your frontal lobe with all the decisions that you guys have to make. And then lastly, you have the temporal lobes, which are on the side, which help with hearing, all of your motions, and then language as well. In the back of the brain, we talked about you have the cerebellum, This is where muscle coordination is developed, as well as the memory of doing physical skills. So this is like you learn how to ride a bike, and then you continue just to know how to ride a bike. That is the cerebellum back here, because that muscle coordination is just ingrained in your brain. So if the cerebellum is ever injured, your motions, movements will become really, really jerky. When you see an amazing athlete perform, you are watching a well-trained cerebellum at work. All right, and lastly, we have the brainstem, which is made up of the medulla oblongata, the pons, and the midbrain. This controls like your heart rate and your breathing, and it's going to act as connecting to various parts of the brain with other parts. So there, obviously, we know what the 5 senses are. So we have taste, touch, hearing, smell, and sight. And each of these has different sensory receptors that respond to stimuli. And so this is the path that it works in. So first you have sensory receptors, then you have nerve impulses, then you have sensory nerves. They carry that all to the central nervous system, and then the brain interprets that to form a response. I would take a look at this slide because you might have a quiz question on this. These are a bunch of central nervous system diseases. So, if any of these seem to strike your interest, maybe you guys could do your disease presentation on these. And then lastly, what we're going to cover here is the integumentary system. And so what I like to call this system is really like the protection system. It helps to protect like, the rest of your body from being injured. So it is your skin, it is your hair, and it is your nails. So the outermost layer we have here is the skin. We have the epidermis, that's the very most outer layer. It's made up of epithelial cells. There are absolutely no nerve endings or blood vessels in the outermost layer, in the epidermis. But it does contain melanocytes, which produce melanin for skin pigment. So when you go outside in the summer and your skin gets a little more tan or gets a little darker, that is because of the melanocytes in your epidermis. Then you also have the dermis, which is the lowermost layer of skin, all the way down here, which is made up of connective tissue and collagen fibers. It has nerve endings and blood vessels. This is also where the hair follicles are contained, the sebaceous glands, which makes your skin waterproof, and also your sweat glands. So, your sweat glands are all the way down here, and they've got to make their way all the way up to get this out of the system. All right, and then lastly, you have your hair. You have hair all over your body, but, like most of you, your hair is just on your head. It's made up of keratin. This is one defining characteristic of mammals is that we have hair and other organisms do not. And hair helps to protect the body, again, from heat loss, like I've talked about. So these little hairs on your arm will stand up when you get cold, and it'll allow warm air to get underneath of them. And then we also have our nails, which are made up of specialized epidermal cells filled with keratin. Keratin makes them hard and tough. Nails are they're very protective, especially on your fingertips where you have a lot of nerve endings. So they protect to make sure that those don't get damaged. All right, and that is it. That is what we have. That is what we have for this week and our, what we're learning this week. If you have any questions, please feel free to email me, and I can typically jump on a call in the afternoon. I just have meetings this week in the morning when we're supposed to have lessons. So I'm sorry about that. But hopefully, this is a great basic and kind of easy start to the body system. And then in the upcoming weeks, we can really dive into all the other systems. All right. Have a great week.